Hi, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be building an option button view, sometimes referred to as like a multi-select view. And we will be able to add this to our app and customize the look and the layout however we want to get it to match our design. If you've always wanted to do this in SwiftUI but never known how, then stay tuned. Let's learn together. So here we are in our brand new Xcode project. Now let's go ahead and start building out some of the basic UI for the app. So let's go ahead and we'll say select your favorite pizza toppings, and then we will create a custom object that we can display. And so we'll say that we have a struct, and our struct will be a pizza topping struct, and it will conform to identifiable and hashable, and that pizza topping will have an will have an ID, which is our UUID, and it will have a name, which is a string, just like that. There we are. And in this view, we will say that we have a few different pizza toppings. So we'll say that we have an array of pizza topping, and the first one we'll just say it is pepperoni, and sure, we'll take all of those. Let's just go ahead and get onions and mushrooms out. There we are. Nice. So with that, we've got an array of pizza toppings that we can display, and then let's go ahead and create a state variable to hold our selected pizza toppings. And this will be an array that holds optional pizza toppings. There we are. And now with that, let's go ahead and just put a placeholder text here of our pizza topping options. There we go. So now our pizza topping options will live here. But how do we display those toppings, and how do we select them, and how do we move in a reusable way that would be really easy to move from one project to another without having to rewrite a whole bunch of stuff? So let's go ahead and let's do that now. Let's come down here below our content view, and let's create a new struct, and our new struct will be our option button view. And this option button will take a generic type here, which we'll go ahead and select identifiable, and we'll also want it to be hashable, just like that. And then we also want to pass in content, which will be a type of view. There we go. And then we will say that we have a var body with some view, and we are ready to go there. Now let's go ahead and set up the parameters for our option button view. And the first one we will say is our array of options, because obviously we have to have an array of options to iterate through. And then our next variable that we'll use is our array of selected options, just like that. That's great. And then we want our content, and that content we will take in a single piece of our identifiable and hashable data and return some view based on that. Nice. Okay, so there's one other thing that I just personally enjoy doing, and that is creating initializers so that we don't have to always write the name of every one of our variables. So let's go ahead and let's create an initializer here, and our initializer will take we'll put an underscore for our options so that we don't have to pass in our options. Nice. And then we'll take our selected options here, and it does in fact take a binding of t. And then our last parameter is the view builder, which takes an escaping closure that returns some sort of view. Now inside of our closure here, we'll say that we are our self.options equals options, our self, and we won't say selected options directly. We want the wrapped value of that selected options, so we'll use the underscore here. And then we will also say that our self.content is equal to our content, just like that. Nice. And so now we are ready to go ahead and build out our view. Now, again, for this one, I like to wrap these custom components in a group because I want the parent of whoever calls this view to be able to decide what the layout is on its own without me having to prescribe that and it be that way for every component ever. So let's go ahead and let's say that we want to for each over our options, and we want our ID to be our ID of our variable, and then we'll take our option here. Now inside of here we want to create our button, and for the action of our button we want to check if our selection dot contains our option. If our selection does contain our option, then we want to remove it. Otherwise, we want to append our option to the ones that we have selected. Nice. And then we want our label, whoops, not that kind of label, we want just this label for our button to be the content with the option that we provide. And this is selected options, not selection. Let's fix that. All right, and with that we have our option button view complete. So let's come up here into our view and let's replace our placeholder here with our text. So let's say that we want our option button view, and the options that we want to iterate over are all our pizza toppings, and the selected option for this is our selected pizza topping. And then the view that we want, let's take our topping and then we will display an H stack, and inside our H stack we want an image, and this image will be a system name. And the system name varies, so if the selected pizza toppings contains our topping that we have here, then we want to display a check mark dot square dot fill. And if it's not contained in that array, then we just want a square. Nice. And then we want our text with our topping dot name to be beside that. Very cool. And it looks like we missed one of the settings down here. So let's scroll back down, and on our button, let's update this so that our button style is going to be a plain button style. Nice. And so now we can see that we get to decide from the parent what our view actually looks like. So again, let's go ahead and let's make the alignment on our option button view be leading. So let's move that to leading. Now, one thing that you could do, if this is the configuration that you use on a regular basis, then you could go ahead and you could actually move this VStack alignment of leading down here and replace the group with that VStack and an alignment of leading, and that way you would get this same layout every single time. But the downside of this, of doing it that way, is that we could also lay these buttons out a little bit differently. So another way that we could do this, and we'll just put it in an H stack for example, is we could say that we want the exact same option button view that we had here, but instead of an H stack, we just wanted the text with the name. Nice. And so we could say that these texts have a padding, and we could say that these texts have a foreground style. If the selected pizza toppings dot contains our topping, then we want the foreground style to be, and let's go ahead and collapse our project navigator here just to get a little more room. There we are. Then we could say that we want the foreground style to be .white. Otherwise, we want it to be .primary. And let's say that we have a background, and in our background, if the selected pizza toppings contains our topping that we're clicking on here, then we want the background color to be blue. Otherwise, we want it to be clear. Nice. Now, as you can see, there's just not enough room for some of the longer words on here, and that's okay for right now because this is just another way of being able to look at this data here. So as you can see, our first one, it looks like a checkbox, but as you can see, our second one, it looks closer to a button. And we can even make it look even more like a button if we add a clip shape with a rounded rectangle, and we gave it a quarter radius of just say 8. So now if we were to select sausage, for example, it looks like a button that has sausage selected, which is very cool. We could also select extra cheese, and as you can see, it chooses the same thing in both places. However, these two items look very different. Visually, they operate identically under the hood though, which is one of the benefits of creating our own custom component. We can make this and style this however we want it to look and act. And with that, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And if you leave a comment, just be nice about it. That's all I ask. Thanks. Have a great day.